continue from here and round up this chapter. And so we're told Jacob told Joseph's son. So of course Genesis chapter 48. Okay, what we're studying, and we're told in verse 9 that Jacob told Joseph, say, bring your sons so that I will bless them. And we're told in verse 10 that Jacob's eyes were dim because he was old and he could not see. Could not see because his eyes were dim. Okay, and I said that it was not it was only his physical eyes that were dim. Okay, his spiritual eyes were very much clear. He was only blind physically, not spiritually. He could see clearly spiritually. Okay, so Joseph took his sons, and we're told that in verse 13 we're told that so Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him. So what now Joseph's two sons were where they put them between his legs. So when his father said, bring them so that I will bless them, what he did was he held the younger, he held Manasseh, who was the elder, in his left hand, okay, and held Ephraim, who was the younger, in his right hand, because since Jacob was facing him, his left hand was to Jacob's right hand, and his right hand was to Jacob's left hand. So he held the elder in his left hand and took him to Jacob's right hand. And he held the younger, Ephraim, in his right hand and took him to Jacob's left hand. But let's see what Jacob did. Verse 14. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. Now, that's why I said it was only his physical eyes that were dim. His spiritual eyes were very much open. Okay, there was nothing wrong with his spiritual sight. His eyes may have been dim, but he could see clearly in spirit, in the realm of the spirit. So even as despite what Joseph did to ensure that Jacob's right hand was on the elder and his left hand on the younger, Jacob now crossed his hands. Oh my God. Jacob now crossed his hands because, of course, he was here. Joseph had put Manasseh at his right hand and had put Ephraim at his left hand. But Jacob crossed his hands. So what he now did was he placed his right hand on Ephraim, who was the younger, and placed his left hand on Manasseh, who was the elder. He placed his right hand on Ephraim and placed his left hand on Manasseh. Now when God chooses you, he will bypass man's biases, opinions, convictions, or conventions. When God chooses you, he will bypass man's biases, opinions, convictions, or conventions. Conventionally, as he was to bless them, his right hand was supposed to be on the elder son's head. The elder son was supposed to have the birthright. However, God had chosen the younger son, Ephraim. So despite everything Joseph did by, ensuring that he put each one where they were supposed to be based on convention, God still bypassed that convention. Okay? And Jacob had to cross his hands. A man who was blind and could not see. Was he not the one who asked Joseph, who are these, as though he didn't know who they were? He asked Joseph, who are these? And yet he knew to cross his hands. He knew who was chosen. He knew who was to have the birthright. Didn't need to have physical sight to know that. He knew that. Okay. And then we're told, say, he blessed Joseph, that is Joseph's sons, and said, God, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did walk, the God which fed me all my life long unto this day, the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them, and let them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. So let my name be named on them. He had adopted them. Okay. He had adopted them. So they were his sons now. So this was a prophetic act, okay, to spiritually transfer the blessings bestowed on Abraham and Isaac. So it was not just an ordinary act, but it was a prophetic act. It was to spiritually transfer that Abrahamic blessing to the next generation. Okay. And we're told in verse 17, say, and when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. And he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. Of course, we're told that when Joseph saw, because he had placed the children where they were supposed to be based on their position. But his father crossed his hands and placed his right hand on the younger and his left hand on the elder. When Joseph saw it, he was not happy at all. He said, no, my father, not so. This is the younger, this is the elder. Place your right hand on Manasseh. He's the elder. Place your left hand. Joseph thought that Joseph did not understand that his father could see what he was not seeing at that time, or what his biases prevented him from seeing. He did not understand that his father was not operating on human knowledge or on human conviction, but he was operating by the Spirit. He did not understand. He thought that because his father's eyes were dim and he could not see, so maybe the father had made a mistake. The father made no mistake. And we'll come to see it as we read the next verse. The next verse, we're told, and his father refused and said, I know it, my son. I know it. To tell him that don't think I made a mistake. I did not make a mistake. I know what I'm doing. I know who the elder is. I know. Now, how did he know who the elder was? How did he know who the younger was? His eyes were dim. He could not see. He could see in spirit. He was a man of the Spirit. He was a prophet. He had seen the destinies of these children. He had seen God's plan for them. He had seen who they were to be. He knew all of these things. And he told Joseph, said, I know it, my son. I know it. I did not make a mistake. I know what I am doing. And he continued. He said, he also shall become a people, that is the elder brother Manasseh, So he also shall become a people. And also shall be great, but truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. Now, look at Joseph, their father, and of course, you cannot blame Joseph. Every father would expect that his first son should be the one to, have the birthright. I think any father would react the same way. Okay. Any father would react the same way. No, 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 father, not so, not so. You just made a mistake. This is the elder. Your right hand should be on the elder. But the thing about God is that God does not follow man's rules. Man follows God's rules. God does not follow man's rules. Man follows God's rules. You cannot tell God what to do. You have to align. Okay. By man's rules, the elder should have the birthright. The right hand of the patriarch should be on the elder son's head. But God does not follow man's rules. Okay? And here we see a generational pattern. You know this thing about generational patterns. We've talked about it still in this book of Genesis. Generational patterns. Generational patterns. In this family was a pattern, a generational pattern, that the first sons were always knocked out. The first sons were not the ones to have the birthright. It was a pattern. It was a pattern. Isaac was not the first son. By right, Isaac was not the one who should have the birthright. Isaac was not the one who should continue the patriarchal covenant line, because he had an elder brother, Ishmael. Yet, God discarded Ishmael and chose Isaac, this younger son. Isaac had two sons, Esau and Jacob. By right, Esau was to be the patriarch. He was to be the one to continue the covenant line. But he did not, because God discarded him and chose his younger brother, Jacob. This very Jacob you're seeing now. By right, Reuben was supposed to be the one who would continue the patriarchal covenant line. But Reuben was discarded because of what he did by sleeping with his father's wife. Okay. Reuben was discarded. Okay. Reuben was discarded. Now we see the grandchildren of this man, who eventually became his sons because he adopted them. Even as he adopted them, now he had adopted them and he said, as Reuben and Simeon shall they be. In other words, they are taking the place of Reuben and Simeon. So one of them now had to be the first son. And going by convention, should be Manasseh, because he was the elder. Yet the same pattern continued, and we see that God says, no, not Manasseh, Ephraim, the younger brother, is the one who is chosen. What a pattern. I don't even know what to say about this now, because God is involved in this one. It's not something that you say someone went somewhere and did something against them or against the person, and that's this is not even something like that. So I wonder why this pattern that continued for generations. I wonder what brought about it, what led to it. Because it was a serious pattern, strong one at that. Strong pattern. The first sons were never the ones who inherited the birthright. Too bad. What kind of pattern is that? How does one go about breaking such a pattern? You have to go on your knees. In things like this, I don't know how nobody sat down to say this pattern has continued for generations. I think it's time we did something about that for the sake of our children. No one sat down to do that. Just let it continue and continue and continue. Perhaps if they had gone to God and had sought His face before they began to have children, then maybe that issue would have been sorted out. Okay, maybe that issue would have been sorted out. I mean, Joseph now. Okay, for example, Joseph now. If perhaps he had sorted that issue out before he began to have children, it wouldn't happen. Because how does it always happen? Why does it always happen like that? That the one who is supposed to inherit the birthright will not come out first, and the one who comes out first will not be the one to inherit the spiritual birthright now. The spiritual birthright, the right to be a patriarch, the right to continue the Abrahamic covenant. What a pattern. I don't know. It was a pattern. And we're told that Jacob blessed Ephraim and Manasseh, and he said that from that day, whenever anyone wants to bless another person or bless a child, okay, they will say, God bless you as Ephraim and say, God make thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. God make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. Because I mean, they should tell you that they would of course be great. They would be blessed, and of course they had to. Their father Joseph was a government official. They had never known poverty in their life. They had never known lack. They had never known want. Okay, and then of course they were blessed, and they would be blessed. So when someone says, "God bless you," God make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh, you will know that, yeah, it was actually a very good blessing. Okay, and we're told in verse 20, say, and he said, that is Jacob now, set Ephraim before Manasseh. Too bad. Verse 21, Jacob told Joseph, he said, behold, I die, but God shall be with you. Say, behold, I die. So he knew when he was going to die. He knew when he was going to die. And he knew that the time was close. Okay. Say, behold, I die, but God shall be with you and bring you again unto the land of your fathers. God shall be with you and bring you again unto the land of your fathers. Now, this was a prophecy. He was prophesying to them based on what the Lord had told him. Okay? Based on what the Lord had told him. He was prophesying. And we'll come to see as we study further that this prophecy indeed came to pass. Okay? So that prophecy came to pass eventually, and from the time when Jacob made the statement to the time when the prophecy actually came to pass, was years, up to 400 years or more. From the time Jacob prophesied this to the time when it actually happened was years, spanned centuries. Okay, spanned centuries. But as we'll come to see, God's word is sure. And if he has said it, so will it be. And so it happened, just as Jacob said it. So whatever it is, whatever prophecy has been given over your life, rest assured that it will come to pass. It will be fulfilled. It might take a little while longer than you thought, than you anticipated, but it will be fulfilled. Okay, in Jesus Christ's name. Thank you all so much for being a part of today's Bible study. It was a great pleasure having you all here. I hope we got the message the Lord had for us. May He give us the grace to apply what we've learned to our lives. I'll see you all again tomorrow, same time, 8 p.m. Nigerian time. But don't come alone, invite someone. And as you do so, may the Lord bless you abundantly. Have a lovely night's rest, sleep tight, sweet dreams, and good night.